I already did. So
Hey everyone, we'll get started. Yeah, last class. So today what we'll be doing is creating a Pokédex. So for those who have played Pokemon, you probably know what that is. But it'll just be a simple list of Pokemon and we'll see what we can do with it. So I'm gonna share my screen. Cool, so if everyone remembers, the first thing we have to do is run create React app, and I'll call it Pokédex. And yeah, so I know someone asked last class for to learn about animated scrolling. I think overall, I think we probably want to just post some information online for that instead, just because it's not something that is really like super teachable, and I think it's just something that you need to practice on your own. So I've actually posted a link on the tiny URL. So it's right here, just some information on CSS animations and scrolling. So you should be able to find all the information you want there. So yeah, so this is, if you guys don't remember, this is how we can run, how to create a React app. So the information was, it's all on the tiny URL if you need to remember that, but basically you have to install a node and then install create React app, and then you can run this and it'll automatically create a folder for your app. So if you guys have followed along in the last few weeks, then you probably have already installed this. So all you have to do is run this command right here, create React app, Pokédex, or whatever you want to call your app, and then it will be created. So cool. So it looks like it's created, and we can see it gives us the commands to start our app. So I'll do cd Pokédex and then npm start. This will open it up in the browser, and cool. So we got our base React app loaded. And now I'll go to Sublime Text and open up our code. So we can do file open, and then we find the Pokedex, which is on our desktop, and then press enter there. So cool. So this is our code again. Remember, we want to look at the app.js file and the app.css file. These are the two files we'll need. And I will say JavaScript Babel to make this look a little better. So I'm going to delete this, and the first thing we'll want is a Pokédex header. So this is just the biggest tag for a header, if you guys remember. I can remove the CSS because we can write our own. So cool. We have Pokédex header on top. And now we'll really need to have a list of Pokemon, right? So, so let me explain that for those who don't know, actually. Pokédex is basically something like this, where you'll have a list of Pokemon. For the purposes of this class, we won't get the images. We'll just have the names and maybe the type, and then we can have a searchable list, basically. So it'll look like this, and it's basically just a list of all the Pokemon that kind of exist. So obviously, to do that, we'll actually need that list. So what we can do here is create a new file, and I'll call it Pokemon.js.
Excuse me?
So, yeah.
What region, like, will you be doing the Pokédex on?
Oh, I found a list of Pokemon online. I think it's just the base region in like the original Pokemon Kanto, I think.
Yeah. Okay. So the original 50 Pokemon? Or like 150
like
Pokemon?
100,
okay.
yeah.
Are we expected to copy down this code?
No, don't worry. I'll post the code online, and you'll be able to look at it on your after class if you'd like. But I mean, this isn't really important. All it is a list of Pokemon that I found online.
Oh, perfect.
In an array format, which is what we need to. Let me mute everyone. How do I do this? Can you guys please mute yourselves?
Ladies and gentlemen, sacrificing my teammates. You guys.
Sorry, I don't know how to mute people. Okay. Anyways, so this is
through participants. You go into participants and there's a mute all.
Oh yeah, there you go. Thank you. Okay, so this is our list of Pokemon. We have the name, so it's an array, and each Pokemon is an object. In the object, we have the name, we have the type. We define the types up here as variables. It doesn't really matter. I could have done a string here, or you can just have it as a variable that's defined here as a string. It also has the stage of evolution, I think, or something like that. That's not super important. Probably not going to use that.
Why are the types in const? Why are they not in like string specifically?
So in JavaScript, if you remember, we actually don't have types. So you can't really do like string grass. That's not a thing. There in JavaScript, we only have const and var and let. Sorry, const and let are the only two things you'll need.
Oh, correct. But we won't use let here because we're not trying to change the value.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. So this grass will never change, so we don't need to worry about that. Cool. And then we also have whether they're caught. So this is a 0 or a 1. They'll all start out as 0 because we can assume that we haven't caught any to start with, right? So the next thing we'll want to do is actually import our Pokemon, right? So here we can see that we're doing an export default, which means that if we import this file, so I can say Pokemon list from Pokemon, then we can see that we'll have our list, right? So we can say /Pokemon because that means that check the current directory. So / means check the current directory for this file. So now we have our list, and one thing we can do is actually just print out the name of each Pokemon. So does anyone remember how to go through a list of items?
Index.
Yeah, so you want the index of each item, that helps, but does anyone remember what JavaScript function?
JSON.parse or JSON.stringify? Oh no, that converts the array into a string.
Yeah, that's close, but we want something where we can kind of loop through all the elements and put them on the page.
While loop.
Yeah, you can use a while loop in, you can do it in JavaScript too, but there's a specific function that we'll want to use because we're trying to do it inside of our HTML here.
I have a question about the Create React compiler.
Yeah, someone got it right. It's Matt. But yeah, what's the question?
Yeah, so when you install the Create React on your compiler, can you still run other types of code such as Java and Python?
No, so Create React App is a JavaScript specific thing. It's only really used for React apps, which are JavaScript. So you can use it to create those apps, but you can't really use it to create Python or Java apps. Cool. So each time we loop through our Pokemon list, we'll get a Pokemon, right? And if we remember, this is how you can write a function with the arrow and then the braces here. And then in this function, what we want to do is return whatever we want to show on the page, right? So in this case, we'll do a div, and then so each Pokemon we can see is like an object right here, right? So we want to access the name, right? At least. So the first thing we'll do is just do Pokemon, and remember you have to use braces inside HTML for it to show up. So Pokemon.name, and let's see what that prints out. Cool. So we got our list of Pokemon, and yeah. So ideally we want to print out some more information, right? We'll probably want the type, and maybe whether it's caught or not. So that's what we'll do to start with. But yeah, so let's stop here for any questions.
So essentially what this code is doing is it's basically, first it's highlighting that it's a Pokédex, and then it's taking the list.map and then it's defining it as a function. So basically it'll return only the name index of each one.
Yeah, exactly. So the map function will allow you to go through the entire list that we copied here. And
then the arrow is defining it as a function.
Yeah, exactly. So when this is the argument of the function. The arrow says this is a function, and this is anything inside the braces is the body of the function. And you can do kind of whatever you want here to return the content of your page.
Got it.
So this is good. So we have the Pokemon name. The next thing we probably want to do is have the type, right? So we'll just put a comma for now, and we'll say Pokemon.type. So cool, that worked really easily. Now we see all the types because we have them defined here. And the last thing we'll want to do is say if they're caught or not, right? So so here we'll want to do Pokemon.caught, and let's see what that prints out. So it prints out 0, but that's not really what we want, right? So we probably want an if statement, right, to see whether it's caught, and then we can print it out. So caught text is what we'll call it. And so in this case, we want to change it, right, depending on if it's caught. So we'll keep it as a empty string, or actually we'll say not caught. And then we'll say if Pokemon.caught, then caught text equals caught. So what this does is it checks whether the Pokemon has been caught, and then it will change the text accordingly. That's why you need a let, so that you can reassign it, right? So now we can see that if we put this text there instead of the 0 or 1, then we can see the actual whether it's caught or not. Cool. The GitHub is in the tiny URL. You can find that there. Yeah. Okay. So clearly, one thing we can see here is that this is getting pretty long, right? So we're going to learn one new concept today, which is a component in React. So a component is really just another function. So here we have the app function, and this is the main function of our content of our page, right? Anything we change here is pretty much our entire page. Here, this line, we can call it a Pokemon, or like an entry in our Pokédex, right? So I'm just going to call it Pokemon. And the Pokemon function will be a new component. So this is a component, basically. And one thing we can do for now is just return a test to see how this can be used, right? So let's do it right here. And to use a function that returns HTML, what you can do is you can simply write this on the page. So you use the name of the function, and then you use it just like any other HTML tag, and now we can see that this worked. So this is, I'll just say this is the Pokemon component, right? So we can see that that's working. It's on top of the list of Pokemon here, and we can see that it's working, right? So the next thing we want to do is make it take in a Pokemon, right? So instead of doing all this over here, what I'm going to do is actually copy this over here, and I'm going to make this component actually handle the displaying of our Pokemon. And here, what we're going to do is we're just going to return that component, right? So I'm going to return Pokemon, and let's see what happens here, right? So it says Pokemon is not defined. And the reason for that is we define Pokemon here, but it never actually will, there's no variable for it, right? The variable is down here, but these are separate functions, right? So we need a way for us to pass it in. So the easiest way to do this is define it inside this tag here. So what we want to do is add whatever we want to call it, and then we have to say what it's equal to. So here it's really simple. We'll just say we'll call it a Pokemon, and then it'll be equal to the Pokemon that we're looking at. And the last thing that each component will get is something called props. So every component gets props. Props is an object containing all of the items that are passed into the component. So in this case, Pokemon was passed into the component, right? So the way to access this is say const Pokemon, and we have to use these braces around here because that's how you can that's how you actually get the access an element within the props object. So actually, let's make this a little simpler, and we'll just say props.pokemon. So this is the easier way to read that. And yeah, so that's that. So let's see, we got an error here. Cannot read property caught of undefined. So it looks like it didn't work properly.
Could you try it the way you were gonna do it before you put props.pokemon?
Yeah. So let's do this, and we can console log props, right? So that's a useful thing that we learned last class. So let's console log it, and okay. So we can see props is it has a Pokemon object, and it's right here, right? So it's possible that we are calling this with the empty object sometimes. So we can see that that's because I have this line right here where I didn't pass in a Pokemon. So that's why I just have to delete that, and now we can see all of our Pokemon properly. So it was working, but we just had an extra one where we weren't passing it in. So yeah, so there's this, or I'll just say this is equivalent to cool. So
Oh, could
now
you
we can
real quick
see,
explain the return Pokemon? What does that mean?
yeah. So so here the thing that you need to know is that you use the name of the function for the component. So you can see even when I
Right.
highlight this, we use that, right? So that, and
But
you use it just like any other HTML tag, just like this, with the end brackets and stuff. And then you have to pass in the props, right, for this component to know what the data is, right? So in this case, props, you have to pass it between the end of the tag. So like, for example, here, we can do a class name, right? So like I would do class name equals app, right? So class name is a prop. So in this case, like class name is a prop of a div. And that's like the default HTML props that are possible, right? For Pokemon though, anything is possible because it's a custom function that we are creating, so we can change it however we want. We don't own div, but we do own the Pokemon, so we can pass in any prop we want for this Pokemon, right? So in this case, we want to pass in the name of the Pokemon or the object, the Pokemon object here, because that's the only way this function will be able to display all the information, right? So we have to pass in the name, which is exactly what we're going to use here, and then we give it the value of the item in this list, right? So now this function has exactly what we passed it in.
Whenever I type into /div, it makes the rest of my code yellow. That's what's happened.
So it might just look wrong, even though it's working. But it's important that you try to install the JavaScript Babel extension. I think I posted a link to that, but you basically will have to just look at installing install package. Sorry, it's called a package, not extension. So you have to just try here. I guess it doesn't let you do that. Yeah, so just go to package control, basically, I think. And you basically just need to install the package. I posted a link in the tiny URL, but let me know if that doesn't work.
There. Do you know what week it's under?
Sorry?
Do you know which week it's under?
Oh, here, let me find it for you right now then. Install package Sublime, or install. Cool. So that's how you install it. Okay.
So excuse me, is that
So
so is that Pokemon in the return statement in green? Is that basically the class, and then the one within the brackets is the prop or the props?
yeah, yeah. So you're saying right here, within here
Yes,
is the
yes,
props?
exactly. Right there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So this is the component, not the class. So any function that you create in React will be that returns HTML. You can use it as a component basically, and it will take in props. So yeah, you're right that everything inside
And
here is a prop.
that's far easier than having to export default the Pokemon function.
Yeah, exactly.
Uh,
Cool. So now we have our basic Pokemon, but obviously this is not styled very nicely. So let's add some styles to our page. So we will have a class name app, and let's go back to our CSS, and we'll just give it a margin of margin left, and we'll say 5%. So it'll add some space to the side. And then we probably want our row to look a little nicer. So we'll go here and we'll say class name equals Pokemon row, and in each this is how we can do. This is what we can use to kind of space out our elements, right? But the problem is everything is in one line here. So what we'll want to do is actually space this out a little and make it look a little nicer. So we'll just use a div for each of our elements here. And then now they will work under Flexbox, because otherwise Flexbox doesn't work and it thinks it's all one thing. So I just forgot to end this, and then can go back here. Oh, we're just missing something here. I'm missing a bracket somewhere. Let's see.
Somewhere on my
Huh, this is weird. Okay, I'll just make it one line for now. Should work. Oh yeah, there's something wrong with this actually. Oh, I think I might have just added too many things. Okay, let's make these bands instead. Let's see if that, oh, I just forgot this here. Wow. Okay, so the problem was I just forgot a slash right here. Yeah, thanks. I think someone already caught that. Huh. Oh, now I have an extra bracket there. Okay, sorry about that. It's hard to read everything. Okay, so now it's working, but we can see it's not spaced out properly, right? So the thing we'll need to do here is, okay, so how do we code when a Pokemon is caught or not? So I'm gonna get to that, but first let's see if we can display our content properly, right? So we'll just want to space that out. So does anyone remember the flex property to space some content out and make it take up more space?
Flex wrap.
Close. So flex wrap will say that you can wrap it to the next line, but here we want to actually keep it all in the same line.
Oh no, it would be space between or space around.
Yeah, exactly. So flex. So flex. So yeah, flex wrap is not the.
Yeah.
Yeah. Smaller, so we can say width 40% or something, right? So that looks a little better. And then what we also want to do is add some space just between our rows. So let's just do like a margin bottom of like 10 pixels, right? So yeah, cool. That looks a little better. So now there's space under these, and then yeah, that's fine for now. So now we have our Pokemon, but people are asking, how do we actually catch them, right? So this is not a game. This is a Pokédex. Pokédex is just a way to keep track of who we caught or not. So what we'll need to do here is have a button next to the Pokemon that says catch, right? Yeah, Pokemon Go is much more complicated, and it's not something we can do in 1 hour, but we can still have a Pokédex that we can use to catch our Pokemon or to mark them as caught, and that way we can see it work a little better, right? So now this catch button is so we can use the button HTML component, and it won't do anything right now. But what we want to do when we press catch is actually change this to caught, right? So the problem with that right now is that we have Pokemon.js is a file right here, and you can see that caught is 0, and we need to somehow change this, right? So what we're going to want to do here is actually have a state for our Pokemon, right? So here we're going to use the use state component the use state function that we used in last class. So we'll say Pokemon list set, sorry, and we need brackets here, set Pokemon list equals use state of Pokemon. Okay, so we'll just call this starting Pokemon list, right? So this is what we'll start out with, and then we can have state where we'll actually change it. So If we refresh, this works because all we did was create a variable that's the same name using this starting Pokemon list, right? Now, what we want to do is actually have a function to mark a Pokemon as caught. So the next thing we want to do actually is have a function here that we can take in an index of a Pokemon and mark it as caught. So then the next thing we want to do here is, as we remember in the map function, sorry, let me remove this for now. We can take an index, and then we'll probably want to pass that in here as another prop so we can see how that works. So we have the index, and then we can just pass it right here. So now we have another index for our props. Yeah, so if you guys could try to not talk about Pokemon in the chat, that would help. Just keep the chat only for questions so I can see easily if anyone has a question. Yeah, so now we have the index, and then when we click the button, we want to tell our component to mark the Pokemon as caught on the index, right? So we'll have a function here that says mark as caught, and it'll be a function, so we can make it take an index and use the arrows, and now we can do whatever we want, right? So for now, let's console log the index. That's a good way to test out if our function is working. And then we'll have another prop actually that we will pass into a Pokemon, right? So now mark is caught. So now in the button, whenever we click this, so on click, if you guys remember that, we want to mark as caught, right? But we don't want to just mark as caught because we don't know what the index is. So we need to pass in the index. So we can use a function here, pass in the index. So what this does is it'll say, when this Pokemon is clicked, whatever row we're on, pass in the index to mark as caught, and then let's see if the index prints out properly, right? So we have our page. It's a console log when this is caught. So cool, we see 0. If I click like the third one, then it's a 2, because remember we started 0, so 0, 1, 2. If I click a random one here, so it's 15. So it looks like it's working. It knows which one's being clicked, right? So that's good. So the next thing we want to do is actually mark it as caught, right? So here, does anyone remember what we need to do so that we can update the state? We did this with our tic-tac-toe board as well.
We would use a let, correct?
Yeah, so we can use a let because we have to change it, but what's the main the problem here? Because remember, if we don't create a new array, then React won't update our state, right? So the main thing we have to do here is create a cloned Pokemon list again. So cloned Pokemon list equals, so I'll make a string Pokemon list first, just how we did in last class. And now now we have a clone Pokemon list. And then the next thing we want to do is set that value, cloned Pokemon list of index dot caught. So this value caught, we'll say 1, right, to mark it as caught. So here it's 0. So here we'll say 1 means the Pokemon is caught. And then the last thing we want to do is set our Pokemon list to the clone Pokemon list. The Pokemon.js code I found online. It's just a list of all the Pokemon. You can also write it yourself if you want to, and you can add more Pokemon, but It's just a nice starting list that I found. You can easily copy it from here, and I'll post the code online. But yeah, I'll put the code will be on the tiny URL. Cool. So if you guys don't remember from last class, these two lines clone the object and allow React to update the state. So JSON.parse parses a string. JSON.stringify. Let me just pull up the code that we had from last class and I'll copy that. So this JSON.stringify converts the array to a string. JSON.parse converts a string to an array. So that's basically what you need to know about those. And together they create a clone of the array as a new array. Yeah, so good job. That's good. Cool. So now we marked it as caught, but we have this button here still, right? So the next thing we want to do is we want to say don't show the button unless it has not been caught. So here we'll say not Pokemon.caught and this. So what this means is I'll comment it right here. Don't show the button to catch unless the Pokemon has not been caught. So now what happens if we catch something is the button goes away. And yeah, we can see that that's working. Yeah, so I mean that's the main thing. We have 15 minutes left. So for the last 15 minutes, we will be able to search for a Pokemon. So right now it's kind of annoying because we have a huge list, but it's hard to find Pokemon, right? They're organized by I think their Pokédex index, but that doesn't help us that much because we want to, let's say I want to search for something random in the middle, like a Magneton or whatever, then it's hard to find it just by scrolling through, right? So ideally we want a search bar on top. So we can learn how to do that really quick. So we'll say, yeah, let me stop for questions first, actually. So index.caught is initially 0, later set to 1. Yeah, so this is, so basically this is true if it's 1, true if it's 1, and 0, and false if it's 0. Yeah, this code will be, I will post the code online in the tiny URL, like always, in the GitHub, yeah. So,
I have a question. What exactly is the const mark as caught doing in this entire equation?
Sorry, say that again. Which one are you talking about?
It's right under function app and then right under the very beginning const. So it's like const mark is caught. Yeah, that one.
Yeah. So here, this function marks a Pokemon as caught using its index. So using the index, we can find it in our array, mark it as caught because 1 means caught, and that's because 1 is true, false is 0, and then we set the Pokemon list to that new list with the caught index.
Oh, I see.
It's giving me an error saying that use state is not defined.
Yeah, so make sure you have it up here. If import React and then just write use state right here. Cool. Yeah. So the last thing we'll want to do really quick is actually is actually be able to filter our Pokemon, right? So we'll have a simple input here, and we'll call this search bar. And then we'll say it doesn't need a thing, and then on change here, we'll say we'll call a function called filter Pokemon. So sorry, I didn't write this function yet, so let me just do that really quick. And we can just create an empty function here that does nothing. So now we have a search bar here, right? It's kind of in the way, so let me write some CSS to move it up a little. So now we can have a little more space here. Cool, so now we have that. Maybe we can even say search here. Cool, so now if we type, nothing happens because we actually need to filter our Pokemon, right? So on change in the filter Pokemon function, if everyone remembers, it takes in an event, or we can just call it E. And then the search is equal to e.target.value. That's, if you guys remember, that's how you can get the event for a search. So now let's console.log the search to see what's happening. So now we can see that it's printing out anything I type. So if I search magnetite or whatever it's called, then we'll see it like that. But we obviously need to filter out the Pokemon. So what we'll do is create a new cloned array. And then we want, the last thing we'll want is actually a filtered Pokemon list, right? And then to do this, we will call the filter function. So this is what that looks like. So this is, I'll post this in the tiny URL, but I mean, basically what it does is it allows you to create a new array with all the elements that pass the test. So whatever passes the test will be in the new array. So it's going to still be a function like map. So map takes in a Pokemon, right? So let's do that. We'll take a Pokemon, and then we have to decide whether this passes the test. Includes search. So what includes does is checks if the Pokemon's name is in the search bar. So now let's say I type CH. Oh, and then the last thing we'll have to do is set the Pokemon list to our filtered Pokemon list, right? So now if I search CH, then we can see Pikachu. So yeah, I can just type. Oh, and I messed up one thing, which is that we'll want to make them both lowercase because so for example, Charmander didn't show up when I typed in CH. That's because we need it to be lower. We need to make sure both things are lowercase. So I'll do dot to lowercase. That's how you can make all the text lowercase. And then we'll do that here too. So now we can do CH and we see Charmander. Everything shows up there, so that's nice. And then I can even keep going. And now we only see the these Pokemon and then Charmander. So it didn't work when I backspaced because it basically lost the original list, which is not a great great thing. So the thing we'll want to do here is just we'll have to reset it. But yeah, I'm gonna stop here just because I don't want to do too much in this class, and just have some Q&A so that we can answer any questions that people are confused about.
Where did you get the Pokemon.js file from? Like, did you search it up?
Yeah, I just Googled for it. I'll post the file I found online also. I mean, so it's right here. It's just it's on GitHub. But yeah, it's basically just a file right here. You can see it in the tiny URL.
Can you go back to the to your code?
Yeah.
Why do you need to have the dot includes search?
What was that?
Why do you need to add the dot include search in the return Pokemon?
So because we want to make sure that we only show Pokemon that are in the search term. So right. So if I let's say I remove that, let's just try removing it. So if I remove that, now nothing happens, right? I can search Charmander, nothing happens. Because we want to only include ones that are in search. Otherwise, you just return all of them.
Is there any way?
And it'll filter out the rest, correct?
Yeah. So what filter does is it only includes the ones that return true. And this will return true if the name is included in the search.
Wait, is there any way to, like, when you search up some random letters, is there any way to say, like, there was no Pokemon that matched your search?
Yeah, so we can do that. So here, basically what we'll want to do. So really what we're gonna want to do is do that here. So let me just do that really quick here. And then we actually don't need to clone it at all. Sorry, I'm just gonna do something really quick, and we'll just say search term, set search term, use state. Okay, so now it starts as that, and then we can just set our search term here instead, and then we can just change this to search term. So now we have our filtered Pokemon list. So like you said, it could be empty, right? So when it's empty, nothing happens. So what we want to actually do is say filtered Pokemon list and right. So if there's a list, it will show it, and then we can actually remove this part, and what we want to do is when there's the filtered Pokemon list is a empty array. So that means there's nothing. Then we want to say all right, let's use a paragraph. Sorry, found no Pokemon. And then if we do that, it didn't work. Filtered Pokemon list. So let's console that, log that Pokemon. So we see it's an empty array. But yeah, so actually I think the problem here is that that's weird. That's basically what you would want to do, but it's not working. The best thing here to do is actually use the library, but what we can do instead is just use json.stringify equals an empty list of a string, and then yeah, that works. So yeah, sorry, there's probably a better way to do that, but basically what at the end of the day you want to check that this is a empty array, which is signified by two brackets like this, and then we can now we have that message right there. Any other questions?
Can you scroll up on your code, please, like all the way to the top? And I'm also confused. How did you get like the code from the GitHub link? Like, what did you type into it? Modify it.
I just searched for
Like, what did you like modify it though? Like whenever when I copy all the code there, right? But it's not the same.
Which
like,
part's not the same?
Oh, like how do you name the array starter Pokemon list?
Oh yeah. So you need to make sure you have a Pokemon.js file.
Yeah.
And then you want to make sure you export default. The existing code should already export default, and then you want to import the starting Pokemon list from that file.
Okay.
So you just make sure to have the import
save
statement.
as starting Pokemon list.
Sorry?
Can it save as starting Pokemon list the export default?
Yeah. Because if you export a default, then you can name it whatever you want. Cool. Any other questions?
Yeah, it's telling me that the filtered Pokemon list isn't defined. At, like, the
Make sure you have
lines.
this line right here. I'll post this code online, so you'll be able to see it. Oh, the parentheses on line 65 is just actually a frowny face. Yeah, I don't really need that, but it was just to say like we didn't find any Pokemon, so you'll see it here. Yeah, so it looks like our search is completely working. Any other questions?
When will you post the code?
I'll post it right now, right after class.
Thank you.
Okay, yeah, so class is over. Thank you guys for learning. This is the last class, but don't worry, you can continue to ask questions on Slack, and I'll be happy to answer them over there if you guys need any help creating anything. Cool. Thank you. Bye.